I rejected every royal healer, after my battle wound, until a humble physician saw past my scars. The blade that cut deepest wasn't the one that entered my back on the battlefield. It was the realization that my own council wanted me dead. I stand in the grand hall of my alpine castle, stone walls pressing in like the tomb they want this place to become, and I can feel the weight of 5 royal healers staring at me with that particular mixture of exasperation and contempt reserved for queens who refuse to be obedient corpses. Their silk robes rustle with impatience. The scent of their magical preparations, rosemary and sage and something metallic that makes my wolf recoil, fills the air until I want to retch. My back throbs where the wound festers, a constant reminder that I am dying, and these men with their soft hands and softer morals think I should be grateful for their intervention. Lord Thaddeus clears his throat. The sound echoes off the vaulted ceiling like a death rattle. Your Majesty, this obstinacy serves no one. You have duties. The kingdom needs a queen, not a martyr. King Cornelius Blackthorn arrives in 10 days for your wedding. Surely you do not intend to greet your future husband as a corpse. I turn to face them, and the movement sends lightning up my spine. I do not let them see me flinch. I have spent 33 years learning to hide pain, to smile through humiliation, to wear a crown that was always 3 sizes too heavy for my head. What is one more performance? Get out, I say. My voice is steady. I am proud of that. All of you. Get out of my sight. The healers exchange glances. One of them, a pompous bastard named Silvius with rings on every finger, steps forward. Your Majesty, you grow delirious with fever. We must insist. I do not let him finish. I am Queen Beatrice Battleforge, Alpha of the Northern Alpine Territories, and I am ordering you to leave my hall before I have my guards remove you by force. The only thing delirious here is your belief that I will accept your help when you denied that same help to my soldiers 3 weeks ago. The temperature in the room drops. They know what I am referring to. After the Battle of Grindelwald Pass, when my warriors lay bleeding in the castle courtyard, these same healers stood in this same hall and declared that magical resources were limited and must be allocated strategically. Strategically. Such a clinical word for letting men die because they were common-born, because their lives were worth less than the magical energy it would take to save them. I watched them die. I held their hands while they bled out on stones I walk across every day. Their blood has been scrubbed away, but I still see it. I still smell it. Copper and salt, and the particular sweetness of life leaving a body. Lord Thaddeus approaches me, his face a mask of grandfatherly concern that makes my stomach turn. Your Majesty, surely you understand the necessities of governance. We cannot heal everyone. Resources must be preserved for those who matter most to the kingdom's stability. His hand reaches toward my shoulder. I step back before he can touch me. The movement costs me. My vision swims, and I taste blood in my mouth. Those who matter most, I repeat, and I hear the bitterness in my voice, sharp enough to cut. You mean those who keep you in power. Thaddeus's mask slips for just a moment. I see something cold move behind his eyes, something that confirms what I have suspected since I woke from the battlefield with a blade wound in my back and betrayal in my heart. Your Majesty is overwrought. Perhaps rest would be beneficial. It is a dismissal. He is dismissing me. In my own hall, in my own kingdom. The kingdom I inherited at 18 when my mother died of a poison no healer would cure, because she too had made the mistake of caring about the wrong people. Get out, I say again. Now. They leave, finally, their robes swishing with indignation, and the door closes with a boom that reverberates through my chest cavity. I stand alone in the grand hall, surrounded by tapestries depicting my ancestors' glories, and I wonder which of them also died slowly from wounds inflicted by the very people sworn to protect them. The silence is worse than their presence. In the silence, I can hear my own breathing, ragged, labored, the sound of a body losing a battle it did not choose to fight. I make my way to my chambers, each step a negotiation with gravity. My ladies-in-waiting hover at a distance, but I wave them away. I do not want witnesses to my weakness. The hallway stretches before me like a gauntlet. Torchlight flickers against stone, casting shadows that dance like demons. The castle smells of winter, cold stone and dying fires, and the particular emptiness of a place preparing for morning. My chambers offer no comfort. The bed dominates the space, piled with furs and silks that feel more like burial shrouds than luxury. I collapse into a chair by the window instead, looking out over my kingdom. The Alps rise in the distance, snow-capped and eternal. They were here before me. They will be here after. That should be comforting. It is not. I stare at my hands. In the fading light, they look almost normal. The hands of a warrior queen, scarred from sword training, calloused from reins and shields. But I know what they truly are, what they have always been, what I have spent my entire life hiding. I flex my fingers, and the glow begins, soft, silvery, like moonlight made tangible. Lunar healing magic, the rarest gift among shifter kind, the power that could save thousands, the power I was forbidden to use from the moment my mother discovered it when I was 7 years old. I remember that day with a clarity that 30 years has not dimmed. The stable boy, Thomas was his name, though no one else bothered to remember, had fallen from the hayloft. His leg was shattered, bone protruding through skin, blood pooling beneath him in the stable dirt. The healers had been summoned for a visiting lord's indigestion. They could not be bothered with a servant's child. I had been playing nearby, had heard his screams. I ran to him without thinking, pressed my small hands to his wound, and felt something inside me respond. Silver light poured from my palms. The bone knitted, the flesh closed. The boy gasped and sat up, staring at his healed leg in wonder. My mother found us there, her face white with horror. She dragged me away by my arm, hard enough to bruise, and locked me in my rooms for 3 days. When she finally came to me, her eyes were red from crying. "Never again," she said, her voice breaking on the words. "Never, Beatrice. If the council discovers you can heal, they will either control you or kill you. Healing is power, and power belongs only to those who rule, not to those who serve." I was 7. I did not understand. "But Mama, I could help people." She slapped me. My mother, who had never raised a hand to me before, hit me hard enough that my head snapped to the side. "You will help no one if you are dead. The council keeps healing scarce because scarcity is control. If people can be healed freely, they do not need to beg. They do not need to serve. They do not need to accept whatever scraps the nobility deigns to give them. Your gift threatens the entire system. They will not allow it to exist." From that day forward, I learned to hide, to push down the silvery glow whenever it tried to surface, to watch people suffer and die when I could have saved them with a touch, to hold swords instead of healing wounds, to be a queen instead of what I was born to be. The irony is sharp enough to draw blood. I became exactly what my mother warned me against, a tool of the council, a symbol of power that serves only the powerful. Everything I touched turned to gold for them and ash for me. The Battle of Grindelwald Pass was supposed to be my triumph. Intelligence suggested that King Cornelius Blackthorn was advancing through the northern pass with a smaller force than expected. If we struck quickly, we could repel him, secure the territories, prove that my kingdom was not weak despite being ruled by a queen. I led my wolf shifters personally, as I always have. I am Alpha. I do not send others to fight battles I will not fight myself. The memory plays in my mind with the vivid horror of trauma, the clash of steel, the howls of shifters in both human and wolf form, the smell of blood and sweat and fear scent so thick it coated my tongue. We were winning. I am certain we were winning. I had just torn out the throat of Blackthorn's lieutenant, felt his life pulse against my wolf jaws, tasted his last breath, when the pain exploded between my shoulder blades. Not the enemy, not Blackthorn's forces. The blade came from behind, from my own ranks, from someone wearing my colors and fighting under my banner. The sword was coated with nightshade and iron, a combination specifically designed to nullify shifter healing. Whoever wielded it knew exactly what they were doing. This was not battle chaos. This was assassination. I remember shifting back to human form involuntarily, the way shifters do when mortally wounded, our bodies seeking the shape that might give us the best chance at survival. I remember falling, the ground rushing up to meet me, the taste of alpine soil in my mouth, mineral and cold, the sounds of battle fading as shock set in, strong hands lifting me, Sir Roland's voice shouting orders I could not quite parse. I woke 3 days later to news of defeat and betrayal layered so thick I could not separate one from the other. My army scattered, Blackthorn victorious, the council already negotiating terms of surrender, peace through marriage, my body traded for my kingdom's survival, the ultimate submission gift-wrapped as political necessity, and the wound, this fucking wound that even now, 3 weeks later, refuses to heal. Every magical healer who has examined it shakes their head with the same mixture of fascination and frustration. The nightshade burns through my system. The iron prevents shifter regeneration. My body fights, but it is a losing battle, and we all know it. 2 days before the battle, my lady-in-waiting Margot had found me in the healer's wing at midnight. I had gone there after another banquet, where I smiled and nodded, while Lord Thaddeus explained why we could not spare magical resources for the village plague outbreak. "Your Majesty values sentiment over strategy," he had said, patting my hand like I was a child having a tantrum over a denied sweet. I could not sleep after that, could not lie in my silk sheets, knowing that children were dying in villages I ruled, dying from fevers I could cure with a touch. So I went to the castle healer's wing, where my wounded soldiers still recovered from previous skirmishes, the ones the council had deemed worthy of saving. Officers, nobles' sons, anyone whose death would cause political complications. But in the back rooms, in the areas the healers did not bother with, there were others. Common soldiers with infections that were healing naturally, but slowly, painfully. I found a boy, he could not have been more than 16, whose arm wound was going septic. I could smell the rot. He was conscious, biting down on leather to keep from screaming. I did not think. I just acted. Pressed my hands to his arm and let the silver light pour from my palms. The infection drained. The wound closed. The boy's eyes went wide with wonder and confusion. "Your Majesty?" And that is when I heard the gasp. Margot stood in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, staring at my glowing hands with the particular horror of someone who has just witnessed the unthinkable. "Your Majesty," she breathed, backing away. "Your hands, they are glowing." I should have killed her then. That is what a smarter queen would have done. Instead, I reached for her, desperate. "Margot, please. This must remain between us. I am only trying to help." But she was already running, her footsteps echoing down the stone corridor, running straight to Lord Thaddeus because Margot has always served the council more faithfully than she ever served me. 2 days later, someone stabbed me in the back on the battlefield. The math is not complicated. Now, sitting in my chambers with death creeping closer with each labored breath, I make my decision. If I cannot heal my people, I will not accept the privileged healing denied to them. Let this wound kill me. Let Lord Thaddeus explain to Blackthorn why his war prize has died before he could claim her. At least I will die with my principles intact, even if I never lived by them. The fever is rising again. I can feel it burning through my blood, turning my thoughts sluggish and strange. I close my eyes, and for a moment, I am 7 years old again, pressing my glowing hands to Thomas's broken leg, feeling the bone knit beneath my palms, experiencing the first and purest joy I have ever known, the joy of healing. A knock at my door shatters the memory. "Enter," I call, not bothering to hide the exhaustion in my voice. What does it matter now? Sir Roland enters, my most loyal guard, the man who has stood at my side since I was crowned at 18. His face is weathered and kind, scarred from 100 battles fought in my name. "Your Majesty," he says, and there is something in his tone, urgency mixed with hope, that makes me straighten despite the pain. There is a physician requesting an audience. He says he does not use magic, only medicine. He says he can help you. My first instinct is to refuse. Another charlatan, another promised cure that will fail like all the others. But Roland continues. "He is human, Your Majesty. From the Americas. He knows nothing of our politics. He only knows you are dying, and he believes he can save you. Human. Not a shifter. Not a magical healer bound by council politics. Not someone who can be controlled by Lord Thaddeus's web of obligations and favors." The curiosity cuts through my resignation like a blade. Send him in. I expect another nobleman in fine clothes with exotic remedies and empty promises. Instead, the man who enters my chamber looks like he has just walked off a battlefield of an entirely different kind. His clothes are travel-worn, practical, patched in places. His boots carry the mud of a dozen territories. His face is young, perhaps 30, but his eyes hold the weight of someone who has seen too much suffering and decided to fight it anyway. He carries a leather satchel that looks as worn as he does, filled with instruments I cannot name. When he bows, it is awkward, unpracticed, the bow of someone who respects the person, but has no reverence for the title. "Your Majesty," he says in accented English. American, I realize, with traces of something else woven through it. "My name is Emmett Rosewood. I am a physician. I do not offer magic. I offer medicine, herbs, surgery, Knowledge learned from indigenous healers and university training. I ask only for permission to examine your wound. I study him, searching for the angle. Everyone has an angle. Every person who has ever entered my presence has wanted something. Power, favor, gold, access. I find none of that in Emmett Rosewood's steady gaze. He looks at me with only genuine concern, the way a healer looks at any patient, regardless of crown or consequence. It is so foreign to my experience that I almost laugh. Instead, I ask, why? My voice comes out harsher than intended. Why do you care if a foreign queen lives or dies? He does not flinch from my tone. Because healing is not a privilege, Your Majesty. It is a human right. And you are human, are you not? Beneath the crown and the power, you bleed like anyone else. His words hit something deep inside my chest, something I have kept locked away so long I had forgotten it was there. The girl who healed Thomas in the stable, the queen who secretly treated dying soldiers, the woman I might have been if I had been allowed to choose. Without fully understanding why, I agree. Examine me then, physician. But I warn you, every healer in this kingdom has failed. What makes you think you will succeed? Emmett Rosewood sets down his satchel and rolls up his sleeves. His hands are calloused, scarred, the hands of someone who works with them daily. I do not think in terms of success or failure, Your Majesty. I think in terms of doing everything possible and accepting the outcome with grace. Now, if you will allow me, I turn my back to him, unlacing the top of my gown enough to expose the wound. I hear his sharp intake of breath, not disgust, but professional assessment. Then his hands touch my skin, and I brace for the usual magical probe that feels like ants crawling beneath my flesh. Instead, his touch is methodical, gentle, exploring the wound with a physician's precision rather than a healer's power. When did this happen? He asks. 3 weeks ago. Battle of Grindelwald Pass. And the weapon. Sword, coated with nightshade and iron. His fingers press lightly around the wound's edges. I bite my lip against the pain. Describe the pain for me. Constant or intermittent? Sharp or dull? Does it radiate? No one has asked me these questions. The magical healers simply waved their hands, muttered about resistant curses, and declared the situation unprecedented. Emmett asks me to describe my fever patterns, my appetite, my sleep. He smells the wound, actually leans in and sniffs it like an animal tracking prey. He studies the discoloration of my skin. He tests my reflexes, my range of motion. Finally, he sits back on his heels and delivers his diagnosis with the calm certainty of someone who has seen this before. Nightshade poisoning combined with iron contamination, designed specifically to resist magical intervention. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted you to suffer, to reject magical healing out of pride or principle, and to die slowly. My breath catches in my throat. He has confirmed what I suspected, but could not prove. Can you save me? Emmett meets my eyes. He does not lie to me with false promises. I can try, but it will require surgery to remove the poisoned tissue, followed by intensive herbal treatment. It will hurt, Your Majesty, and it will take time, weeks, perhaps months. I cannot guarantee success, but I can guarantee effort. The honesty is more valuable than any promise of miracle cures. I make my decision. Do it. He begins unpacking his satchel, laying out instruments I have never seen before. Curved blades, strange pincers, bottles of liquids that smell sharp and medicinal. As he prepares, sterilizing each tool with the meticulousness of ritual, he asks me an unexpected question. Why did you refuse the magical healers? I could lie, give him the political answer, the queenly deflection. But I am so tired of lying, so tired of hiding. If I am going to die, and despite his efforts, death still seems more likely than survival, I want to die having told at least one person the truth. Because I have healing magic myself, the words come out rough, decades of suppression cracking like ice over deep water. Magic. I was forbidden to use my entire life. Magic that could save thousands. But the council hoards healing to control the poor. I refuse their magic because I cannot bear the hypocrisy of accepting what I was never allowed to give. Emmett stops his preparations, turns to look at me with something like wonder. You are a healer? I raise my hands, and for the first time in years, decades, I stop fighting the glow. Silver light spills from my palms, lunar magic responding to my call like a faithful dog that has waited too long for its master to come home. The light fills the chamber, soft and steady and powerful. I was born one, I tell him. I have been a queen instead. Emmett's smile is the first genuine smile I have seen in years. Not the calculated smiles of courtiers or the cold smiles of council members. Just pure, uncomplicated pleasure at discovering something beautiful. Then we will heal each other, Your Majesty. I will heal your body. Perhaps you will heal my faith that this world can change. He turns back to his instruments, and I see it then. The careful, deliberate way he arranges each tool. The prayer-like quality of his preparation. This man believes in healing the way I once believed in it, before the council crushed that faith out of me. Watching him, I feel something dangerous stir in my chest. Hope. This will hurt, he warns, approaching with his first blade. I am afraid, I admit, and it is the first time I have spoken those words aloud since I was a child. Emmett's hand, warm, calloused, steady, squeezes my shoulder briefly. Fear is wisdom. It means you understand the stakes. But courage is not the absence of fear, Your Majesty. It is choosing to proceed despite it. The first cut steals my breath. The second makes me bite down hard enough that I taste blood. The third has me gripping the arms of my chair so tightly the wood cracks beneath my fingers. Emmett works with steady precision, removing poisoned flesh, cleaning the wound, his hands sure despite the difficulty of the work. He talks as he operates, explaining what he is doing, why, how the body heals naturally when given the proper conditions. The pain is extraordinary. Not the sharp, clean pain of battle, but the deep, violating pain of surgery, of someone cutting into flesh that is already traumatized. Sweat pours down my face. My vision blurs. I feel my wolf rising, instinct demanding I shift, fight, flee. But I hold human form through sheer will, because I made this choice. I chose Emmett. I chose this pain. I chose to finally trust someone. Through the haze of agony, I see my hands beginning to glow again. Lunar magic responding to my body's distress, trying to heal me the way I have healed so many others. But the magic is wild, untrained, useless without knowledge to direct it. It flickers around my hands like trapped lightning, beautiful and frustrated. Emmett notices. Even focused on his surgery, he sees the silver light. Your magic is trying to help, he says, his voice steady and calm. But it does not know how. Like a gifted musician who has never been allowed to practice. The talent is there. The training is not. I was never allowed to practice. I gasp between waves of pain. My mother forbade it. The council would have killed me. Then I will teach you what I know, Emmett says, his hands never faltering in their work. And you will teach yourself the rest. You are not useless, Beatrice. You are just beginning. It is the first time anyone has used my name without my title. The intimacy of it. This stranger, this healer, saying my name like I am just a woman and not a queen, breaks something open inside my chest that has been locked for 33 years. The surgery takes hours. When Emmett finally steps back, his hands covered in my blood, his face drawn with exhaustion, I am barely conscious. But the wound is clean. The poison is gone. In its place, careful stitches hold flesh together while clean bandages protect what was once a death sentence. Sleep now, Emmett says, and his hand brushes hair back from my sweat-soaked face with a gentleness that makes tears burn behind my eyes. Your body needs rest to heal. I will be here when you wake. As consciousness fades, I see my hands still glowing softly with silver light. Unused, untrained, but still there. Still waiting. Still believing, somehow, that I might finally become what I was always meant to be. The last thing I think before darkness takes me is this. I spent 33 years dying slowly while wearing a crown. Perhaps it is time to finally learn how to live. I learned more about healing in 3 weeks with Emmett than in 33 years of denying what I was born to be. The morning after the surgery, I wake to sunlight streaming through my chamber windows and the smell of something green and alive cutting through the usual stone and cold scent of my castle. I blink against the light, my body heavy with the residue of trauma and healing, and the first thing I see is Emmett Rosewood arranging small pots of herbs along my windowsill. His back is to me, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and marked with old scars. He hums something under his breath, a melody I do not recognize, something that sounds like home even though I have never heard it before. You are awake, he says without turning around. Somehow he sensed the change in my breathing, the slight shift of my body against the sheets. How is the pain? I take inventory. The wound in my back still throbs, but it is different now. clean pain instead of the festering agony that has defined my existence for 3 weeks. I can breathe without feeling like my lungs are being crushed. My fever has broken. For the first time since the battle, I feel like I might actually survive. Better, I admit, and my voice sounds strange to my own ears. Hopeful. When did I last feel hope? Emmett turns, and his smile is like sunrise. Gradual, warming, impossible to look away from. Good. Your body is healing itself now that the poison is gone, but you need to stay in bed for at least another week. No arguments. He approaches with a bowl of something that steams gently, smelling of herbs and comfort. This is willow bark tea. It will help with the pain without dulling your mind the way the royal healer's potions do. I accept the bowl, our fingers brushing in the exchange. The contact sends electricity up my arm, and I see from the slight widening of his eyes that he feels it too. But he steps back, maintaining the careful distance of physician and patient, and busies himself checking the bandages that cover my wound. His hands on my skin are methodical, professional, but there is a gentleness to his touch that makes my breath catch. No one has touched me like this, as if I am precious, as if I matter beyond my crown and my bloodline and my political value. He peels back the old bandages with infinite care, and I hear his small sound of satisfaction. Excellent. No infection. The stitches are holding. You are healing beautifully. Tell me about these herbs, I say, desperate for distraction from the way my body responds to his proximity. My wolf stirs inside me, curious and approving, which is strange because my wolf has never approved of anyone. Alphas are meant to be solitary, dominant, constantly on guard, but something about Emmett's scent, cedar and medicines and an underlying warmth that speaks of safety, makes my wolf want to curl up and rest for the first time in years. Emmett lights up at my question, his enthusiasm boyish and infectious. Willow bark for pain. It contains a compound that reduces inflammation and fever. The indigenous healers in the Americas have used it for centuries. Golden seal to prevent infection. It has antimicrobial properties. Comfrey for tissue regeneration, though you have to be careful with internal use. And these, he gestures to the pots on the windowsill, are ones I am growing for your continued treatment. Calendula, yarrow, plantain. As he speaks, he applies a poultice to my wound that smells sharp and medicinal, but not unpleasant. I feel the herbs drawing out the last traces of poison, working with my body instead of simply imposing magical force upon it. This is so different from magical healing, I observe. The royal healers just wave their hands and seal wounds shut with power. And that works, Emmett acknowledges, smoothing clean bandages over the poultice with hands that know their work. But it does not teach the body how to heal itself. It does not address underlying imbalances, and it creates dependency. If people believe only magic can heal them, they never learn to care for themselves. He meets my eyes, and there is passion in his gaze, the kind of fervor I recognize because I once felt it too, before the council crushed it out of me. In my homeland, healing is not hoarded like gold in a vault. It is shared freely. Mothers teach daughters which plants soothe fever, which draw out infection. Healers train apprentices in every village. Knowledge spreads like seeds on the wind, because everyone deserves to survive. The hunger that rises in me at his words has nothing to do with the meager breakfast he insists I eat. This is the hunger of someone who has been starving for years without realizing it. Starving for purpose, for meaning, for the chance to be useful in the way I was always meant to be. That world sounds like a dream, I whisper. Emmett shakes his head, settling into the chair beside my bed with the ease of someone who plans to stay a while. It is not perfect. There is still suffering, still death, still disease that outruns our knowledge. But it is better than keeping healing as a weapon to control people. His gaze holds mine, unflinching and direct in a way no courtier would dare. You could change that here, Your Majesty. You have the power. I laugh, but the sound is bitter as nightshade. I have the crown. The council has the power. What if you taught people? Emmett leans forward, animated by the idea taking shape in his mind. What if you shared your knowledge, your magic? They cannot control what everyone knows. Once healing becomes common knowledge, the council's monopoly breaks. It would take time. Yes, it would be dangerous. But you could plant seeds that would grow long after you are gone. The idea is revolutionary, dangerous, utterly impossible. It is also the most seductive thing anyone has ever suggested to me. I imagine it, traveling to villages, teaching farmers' daughters how to channel lunar magic, showing healers' apprentices how to combine herbal medicine with magical intervention. creating a generation of healers who answer to no counsel, who serve only the suffering, dismantling the system that kept me caged my entire life. The idea takes root in my mind like the herbs Emmett plants in my window boxes, small now, fragile, but growing stronger with each passing moment. Our days fall into a rhythm that feels more natural than any routine I have known in 33 years of queenship. Mornings, Emmett changes my bandages and administers treatments, his hands gentle and sure on my healing flesh. He teaches me the names of plants, makes me repeat them back until I can identify golden seal from yarrow by scent alone. He explains the science behind healing, how the body fights infection with white blood cells, how tissue knits together through collagen formation, how fever is not the enemy, but the body's weapon against disease. I devour this knowledge like a woman starving. Every fact, every principle, every technique slots into place in my mind, as if I have been preparing my entire life to learn this. My mother forbade me from practicing healing, but she could not stop me from studying. I have read every medical text in my library, memorized every herb in the royal garden, watched the healers work from shadows and memorized their techniques. Now, with Emmett as my teacher, all that dormant knowledge awakens and begins to take shape. Afternoons, he teaches me surgical techniques using fruit and cloth as practice materials. Surgery is about understanding anatomy and having steady hands, he explains, guiding my fingers through the delicate work of stitching a pomegranate back together. Magic can close wounds instantly, but it cannot teach precision. Practice this until your hands know the work without thinking. I practice obsessively. Peaches, apples, pears, all fall victim to my scalpel and needle. Emmett watches with the patient attention of a master craftsman, correcting my grip, adjusting my angle, praising small improvements. When I successfully stitch together a particularly difficult tear in silk, making the seam nearly invisible, he grins with such genuine pride that warmth floods my chest. "You have a gift for this," he says. "Not just the magic, but the work itself. You were born to heal, Beatrice." It is the first time he has used my name in days, and the sound of it in his voice does something to my insides, makes them go liquid and warm, makes me aware of how close he is sitting, how his scent wraps around me like a blanket, how desperately I want to close the distance between us. But he maintains strict propriety, always. He is unfailingly respectful, keeping appropriate distance, never allowing his hands to linger longer than medical necessity requires. It makes me want to scream. I am a queen accustomed to command, an alpha used to taking what I want, and I want this human physician with an intensity that terrifies me. Evenings are my favorite. The medical work is done, and we simply talk. Emmett tells me about his training, studying at medical schools in Philadelphia and Paris, where knowledge was shared freely, and merit mattered more than bloodline. He describes his journey to the Americas, learning from indigenous healers who treated entire communities with nothing but plants and accumulated wisdom. He speaks of worlds so different from mine that they might as well be fairy tales, places where healing belongs to everyone, and power does not corrupt automatically. I tell him things I have never told anyone, about my mother's terror when she discovered my magic, about watching soldiers die because the council deemed them not worth the magical resources, about the weight of a crown that has never fit right, the suffocation of duty that demands I be someone I am not, about the loneliness of being surrounded by people who see only my title, never my soul. "You are not alone anymore," Emmett says one evening, and the simplicity of those words breaks something open inside me. I find myself laughing for the first time in years, real laughter, not the performative kind required at banquets, debating with passion about philosophy and justice, imagining possibilities I had buried so long ago I had forgotten they existed, and beneath it all, threading through every conversation and touch and shared glance, is the growing awareness that I am falling in love with this man. Not the political love of arranged marriages, not the practical affection of strategic alliances, but the kind of love that poets write about, and I always thought was fiction designed to make unhappy people feel worse about their realistic choices. I watch the way his hands move with such care over my wound, the way his face concentrates with absolute focus when he works, the way he speaks to me, not as a queen, but as a fellow healer, as an equal, as a woman worth knowing. When our hands accidentally touch while reviewing his medical texts, detailed anatomical drawings that fascinate me, the spark is undeniable. When our eyes meet over a shared discovery, the connection is electric enough to light the castle. Emmett feels it too. I see the way he lingers a moment too long when checking my pulse, his fingers pressed to my wrist, while his eyes search my face. I hear the way his voice softens when he speaks my name, as if it is precious, as if saying it gives him the same pleasure it gives me to hear. I notice how he finds excuses to remain in my chambers long after medical necessity requires his presence, organizing his herbs, reviewing his notes, checking and rechecking my bandages even though we both know they are fine. But he never crosses the line. She is a queen, his careful distance says. I am a commoner. She is a wolf shifter alpha. I am human. She is promised to another man. The barriers between us are insurmountable, except they are not. Not to me. Not anymore. The turning point comes one evening during my 3rd week of recovery. I am reading one of Emmett's medical texts, a fascinating treatise on herbal compounds, when I feel a sudden wetness spreading across my back. I reach behind me, and my hand comes away red with blood. The wound has reopened. "Emmett!" I call, trying to keep the panic from my voice and failing completely. He is at my side in seconds, his face going pale when he sees the blood soaking through my nightgown. "Lie down," he orders, and his hands are already working, stripping away the soaked bandages, pressing clean cloth to the wound. But the bleeding will not stop. It pulses out with each heartbeat, bright and arterial, far too much blood. "The nightshade poison," Emmett mutters, his jaw tight with concentration. It must have caused delayed hemorrhaging, the vein wall weakened. He applies pressure, but I can see the fear in his eyes. This is beyond herbal medicine's reach. This requires magic. Magic I do not know how to control, but I am going to die if I do not try. Without thinking, operating on instinct and desperation, I reach back and place my glowing hands over the wound. Silver light explodes from my palms, wild, untrained, powerful as a storm. I feel the magic surge through me, seeking the source of the bleeding, finding the weakened vein, knitting tissue with desperate force. The bleeding stops. The wound begins to close. For one glorious moment, I think I have done it. Then my magic burns through the last of my strength, and everything goes black. I wake in Emmett's arms. He has caught me before I hit the floor, and now he holds me against his chest, his heart pounding so hard I can feel it through his shirt. His hand strokes my hair, and I realize he is trembling. "Beatrice," he breathes, my name a prayer and a plea. "Do not do that to me again." I thought. His voice breaks. I look up at him, and the careful distance he has maintained for 3 weeks has vanished. His face is close enough that I can count the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, can see the fear and relief and something else, something that mirrors the ache in my own chest, written across his features. "I do not know how to use it," I whisper, and tears burn behind my eyes. Tears of frustration, of exhaustion, of fury at a lifetime of suppression. My mother forbade me from ever practicing. I have this gift, this incredible gift, and I am useless with it. I saved myself just now through luck, not skill. What good is power if I cannot control it? Emmett's hand cups my face with infinite gentleness. "Then I will teach you what I know, and you will teach yourself the rest. You are not useless, Beatrice. You are just beginning." His thumb brushes away a tear that has escaped despite my best efforts. "You saved yourself tonight. With untrained magic and sheer will, you did what needed to be done. Imagine what you could do with practice, with knowledge, with freedom to explore your gifts." "I have never been free," I tell him, "and it is the truest thing I have ever said." "Then be free now," Emmett says, "here, with me, in this moment. Be the healer you were born to be. Be the woman you want to be. Just for tonight, forget the crown and the council and all the reasons why you cannot." Our faces are so close now that I can feel his breath against my lips. The air between us is charged, crackling with 3 weeks of suppressed longing and the intimacy of healer and patient, becoming something infinitely more complex. His eyes search mine, asking permission, and I realize that this beautiful, principled man will not take what I do not freely offer. So I offer everything. I close the distance and kiss him. The kiss is tentative at first, a question being asked and answered. Then it deepens, becomes desperate, becomes tender. Emmett kisses me like I am air and he has been drowning, like I am medicine and he is dying, like I am not a queen at all but simply Beatrice, and that is more than enough. His hands are in my hair, mine clutching his shirt, and I taste 3 weeks of longing on his lips, Feel 3 weeks of suppressed desire in the way our bodies press together, as if trying to occupy the same space. This is wrong by every law of my kingdom. I am an alpha queen. He is a human commoner. I am promised to King Cornelius Blackthorn through treaties signed in blood and witnessed by the council. This kiss is treason, is scandal, is political catastrophe waiting to happen. It is also the most right thing I have ever felt. We pull apart eventually, both breathing hard, both shaking. Emmett's face is torn with conflict. Desire warring with honor, want warring with reality. Your Majesty, he starts, then catches himself. Beatrice, this cannot happen. You are promised to King Blackthorn. I am no one. I have nothing to offer you except this. He gestures helplessly at his medical equipment, at his humble physician's life. I touch his face, feeling the rough stubble beneath my palm, the warmth of his skin, the solidity of this man who has given me back myself. You offer me the one thing no one else ever has, the chance to be who I truly am. The words hang between us, true and terrifying. Before either of us can respond, Sir Roland's urgent knock shatters the moment like glass. Your Majesty, Lord Thaddeus requests immediate audience. He says it is about King Blackthorn's arrival. Reality crashes back with the force of an avalanche. I am a queen. Emmett is my physician. We have just committed an act that could cost him his life, and me my throne. I rise from his arms, composing myself with 3 decades of practice at hiding what I truly feel, smoothing my nightgown and wiping the tear tracks from my face. Emmett steps away, and the distance between us grows again, physical space that feels like a chasm. We both know what is coming. In the grand hall, Lord Thaddeus delivers his news with barely concealed satisfaction, his eyes glittering with the triumph of a spider who has finally maneuvered the fly into the perfect position. King Cornelius Blackthorn arrives in 3 days for the wedding ceremony, Your Majesty. The treaty requires your marriage within the fortnight. I trust you are sufficiently recovered to fulfill your duty. His smile is thin and cold. My wound is not fully healed, but it no longer threatens my life. I have no excuse to delay. Every eye in the council chamber is on me, waiting for my obedient agreement, for confirmation that I will play my role in their political theater. I think about Blackthorn, the conqueror, the warrior king who won his throne through blood and will keep it the same way. I think about becoming his queen, his possession, another territory he has claimed. I think about Emmett in my chambers, his hands gentle on my wounds, his belief that I could change the world. I will be ready, I hear myself say, and each word tastes like lead. That night, Emmett finds me on my balcony, staring out at the alpine mountains that have witnessed generations of my family's reign. He stands beside me in silence for a long moment, and then he speaks words that will change everything. We have 3 days before Blackthorn arrives. We should use them. For what? I ask, though I already know. To train your magic, to make a plan, to decide what kind of life you want to live. He turns to face me, and his expression is fierce. When you marry him, you will have access to both kingdoms. You could establish healing programs, train common people in medicine, slowly dismantle the system from within. Use your position for the change you want to see. I shake my head. The idea is noble, but naive. That assumes Blackthorn would allow it. He is a conqueror, not a reformer. He will want to consolidate power, not distribute it. Then perhaps, Emmett says quietly, you need to consider whether the throne is worth keeping. The words land like an earthquake. Abdication. Escape. A life choosing purpose over power. Healing over ruling. Truth over duty. The idea should be unthinkable. Queens do not simply walk away from crowns. Alphas do not abandon their packs. But as I stand there with Emmett beside me and the mountains eternal before me, I realize that the unthinkable has become the only thing I can think about. If I run, they will hunt me as an oathbreaker, I say, voicing the practicalities even as my heart races with possibility. If I stay, I lose you and myself. Emmett takes my hand, his fingers lacing through mine with a rightness that makes my chest ache. Then we make the impossible choice together. Whatever you decide, throne or freedom, crown or calling, duty or truth, I am with you, not as your physician, not as your subject, as your partner, if you will have me. I look at our joined hands, his scarred from surgery, mine glowing faintly with lunar magic even now, human and shifter, commoner and queen, healer and healer. I will have you, I whisper, in whatever way the universe allows. We kiss one last time as free people. There on the balcony with the mountains watching and the stars bearing witness, the kiss tastes of salt and promise and the particular sweetness of something beautiful that will not last. Because tomorrow, we begin preparing for Blackthorn's arrival, and the impossible choice that will define the rest of my life. But tonight, for these stolen hours, I am not Queen Beatrice Battleforge, Alpha of the Northern Alpine Territories, political pawn and council puppet. I am simply Beatrice, a healer learning her craft, a woman discovering love, a soul finally finding its true home. And that is enough. For now, that is everything. Cornelius Blackthorn arrived with 500 soldiers, 3 carriages of gifts, and the absolute certainty that I belonged to him. He was wrong. I wake in Emmett's arms as dawn breaks over the Alps, and for one perfect moment before memory returns, I am simply a woman waking beside the man she loves. His heartbeat is steady beneath my ear, his arm warm around my waist, his scent, cedar and medicines and something uniquely him, wrapped around me like safety. We spent our last night together in defiance of every rule, every law, every consequence that will surely follow. I do not regret a single stolen hour, but morning brings reality with the cruelty of a blade. Today, Cornelius Blackthorn arrives to claim his war prize. Today, I must become the obedient queen accepting her political fate. Today, everything changes. Emmett's breathing shifts, and I know he is awake too, both of us clinging to these final moments before we must put on our masks and pretend that last night never happened. His lips brush my temple, tender and heartbreaking. We do not have to do this, he murmurs against my hair. We could leave now, before he arrives. I want to say yes. Every cell in my body screams yes, but pragmatism wars with desire, and pragmatism, that cold companion of queens, wins. If we run before he arrives, they will hunt us immediately. If we wait, if we play along, we might have a chance. I turn in his arms to face him, memorizing the golden flecks in his brown eyes, the way the morning light catches the silver threading through his dark hair at his temples. 3 more days. We planned for 3 days. We can endure 3 days. Emmett's jaw tightens, but he nods. We dress in silence, the intimacy of the act now weighted with sorrow. As I lace my gown, royal blue and silver, colors that proclaim my status for all to see, I watch Emmett pack his medical supplies with methodical precision. His hands are steady, but I see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his mouth. When we are both presentable, when every trace of our night together has been erased from sight if not from skin, he takes my hands. I will be in the hall as your physician, he says. Nothing more. I will not look at you the way I want to. I will not touch you except as medicine demands. But know this, Beatrice. Every moment, I will be thinking of ways to get you out of here. Every moment, I will be planning our escape. You are not alone in this. I kiss him one last time, tasting salt. His tears or mine, I cannot tell. Then I square my shoulders, lift my chin, and become Queen Beatrice Battleforge, Alpha of the Northern Alpine Territories, woman who does not love a common physician, woman who accepts her duty without complaint. The lie tastes like poison. Blackthorn's procession arrives at noon with all the subtle grace of an invading army, which I suppose is exactly what it is. From my position on the castle ramparts, I watch 500 soldiers march through my gates in perfect formation, their armor gleaming in the winter sun, their wolf-pack discipline evident in every synchronized step. 3 carriages follow, ornate and ridiculous, loaded with gifts meant to impress me into submission, as if I can be bought with jewels and silks, and whatever other treasures conquerors think women desire. And at the head of it all rides Cornelius Blackthorn himself. He is everything I expected and nothing I hoped for. Tall enough to tower over most men, broad-shouldered and powerfully built, he sits his massive war horse with the easy confidence of someone who has never doubted his right to take whatever he wants. His hair is dark as midnight, tied back from a face that would be handsome if it were not so cold. Even from a distance, I can see the predatory grace in the way he moves, the coiled violence in the set of his shoulders. This is a man who won his kingdom through conquest, who rules through fear and force, who sees everything, including me, as territory to be claimed. My wolf recognizes him instantly for what he is: alpha, dominant, dangerous. But where my wolf should feel the pull of like to like, should feel some instinctive attraction to such obvious power, there is only nothing, no recognition, no mate bond, just the flat acknowledgement that here is another apex predator, and I must either submit or fight. I choose neither. I choose to survive. The formal greeting ceremony is a spectacle of political theater that makes my teeth ache. I stand at the castle entrance in my finest gown, crown weighing heavy on my head. Lord Thaddeus and the council arrayed behind me like I am their puppet, and they are pulling my strings. Which, I suppose, is exactly the truth. Blackthorn dismounts with fluid grace and approaches. His scent hits me when he is still 10 paces away. Pine and iron and possessive alpha musk so thick it makes my wolf recoil in instinctive rejection. He smells like dominance and ownership, and the particular arrogance of men who have never been told no. When he reaches me, he does not bow. Instead, he takes my hand and brings it to his lips, his eyes locked on mine in a display of claiming that makes every shifter present understand exactly what he believes. I am his prize, his possession, his right by conquest. Queen Beatrice, he says, and his voice is deep, cultured, threaded with satisfaction, even more beautiful than the reports suggested. I am fortunate indeed in my spoils of war. Spoils of war. He does not even pretend this is anything other than what it is, the victor claiming his due. I force my lips into a smile that feels like it might crack my face. King Blackthorn, welcome to my kingdom. I trust your journey was pleasant. It will be our kingdom soon enough, he corrects, still holding my hand, his thumb stroking across my knuckles in a gesture that would seem tender if it were not so obviously possessive. And all journeys are pleasant when they end in such a prize. The council practically vibrates with approval. Lord Thaddeus steps forward, wringing his hands with barely concealed glee. Your Majesties, shall we proceed to the signing of the treaty documents? All is prepared for the formal joining of your territories. The treaty signing is conducted in the Grand Hall, with all the pomp and ceremony such a momentous occasion demands. I sit beside Blackthorn at the high table while scribes present document after document detailing exactly how my kingdom will be absorbed into his. Marriage in 10 days. Full integration of territories under joint rule. My title retained but my power shared, which means I will have the appearance of authority with none of the actual control. And then the clause that makes my blood run cold. All healing resources, magical and otherwise, shall be consolidated under joint royal control, with distribution protocols determined by the Crown Council. I read it 3 times, hoping I have misunderstood. I have not. Blackthorn does not intend to change the system of hoarded healing. He intends to expand it, to consolidate all healing under Crown control, making the common people even more dependent, even more desperate, even more easily controlled. You have questions about the healing clause? Blackthorn asks, noticing my attention lingering on that particular section. His smile is sharp. I have studied your kingdom's methods extensively. Quite ingenious, really, using healing scarcity as a control mechanism. We will implement similar protocols across all our territories. Imagine the stability, the power, the wealth we can generate when healing becomes the ultimate luxury. I am going to be sick. You would deny healing to those who need it most? Blackthorn looks genuinely confused by my question. I would allocate resources strategically to maintain order and prosperity. The masses do not need to be coddled, Beatrice. They need to be managed. Surely your council has taught you this. Lord Thaddeus nods enthusiastically. His Majesty understands the necessities of governance perfectly, Your Majesty. This union will bring unprecedented stability to both our realms. I sign the documents because I have no choice. Each stroke of the pen feels like signing away not just my kingdom, but my soul. Emmett watches from his position among the medical attendants, his face carefully neutral, but I see his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. He understands what I am agreeing to, what I am becoming complicit in. The formal banquet that evening is torture disguised as celebration. I am seated beside Blackthorn at the high table, dressed in a gown that cost more than most of my subjects earn in a year, wearing a smile that makes my face ache. Blackthorn is attentive in the way of someone displaying his possessions. His hand rests on my shoulder, my hand, my hair, each touch a public proclamation of ownership. He is not unkind, exactly. He does not insult me or belittle me. He simply treats me like I am an object he has won, a trophy to be displayed, a resource to be utilized. You will be a fine queen for our combined kingdoms, he tells me during the 3rd course, his hand covering mine on the table. Your reputation as a warrior precedes you. Together, we will be unstoppable. I will provide the conquest. You will provide the stabilizing presence, and of course, the heirs. I assume your bloodline is fertile? I choke on my wine. He is discussing breeding me like I am a prize mare. I have never had children, I manage to say. No matter. We will remedy that soon enough. His hand moves to my waist, proprietary and presumptuous. I have sired 3 bastards already, so I know I am capable. Once we are wed, we will work on producing legitimate heirs. 12, if your body can manage it. Strong alphas to rule after us. Across the hall, I catch Emmett's eyes. He is standing with the other physicians, and the pain in his gaze is so raw it steals my breath. He watches Blackthorn touch me, watches me smile and nod and play the obedient future wife, and I see each moment cutting him like a blade. But he maintains his position, gives no sign of our connection, because he understands what I understand. Revelation means death. I cannot endure this. I cannot marry this man. I cannot spend the rest of my life as his possession, bearing his children while people die for lack of healing I could provide. I cannot become the weapon he intends to use against everything I believe in. After the banquet, after I have smiled until my face is numb and laughed at Blackthorn's stories of conquest and nodded at his plans for our glorious future, I excuse myself with complaints of fatigue. He kisses my hand, lets his lips linger too long, his eyes promising things that make my skin crawl. Rest well, my queen. We have much to accomplish in the coming days. I flee to the healer's wing, my gown trailing behind me like a burial shroud. I find Emmett organizing medical supplies with unnecessary intensity, his movements sharp with suppressed emotion. The moment he sees me, his carefully maintained composure shatters. He crosses the room in 3 strides and pulls me into his arms, holding me so tightly I can barely breathe. I cannot do this, I tell him, my voice breaking on the words. I cannot marry him. I cannot spend my life as his possession while people die for lack of healing I could provide. I cannot become what he wants me to be. Emmett's hands frame my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Then we leave, tonight, before the wedding binds you legally, before his claim becomes unbreakable. We run, Beatrice. We run now. Roland, I gasp, hope and terror warring in my chest. We need Roland. Already arranged. Sir Roland steps from the shadows, and I am not even surprised. He has been my loyal guard for 15 years, has watched me suffer in silence, has known for longer than I have admitted that this life is killing me. I have been preparing for this possibility since Blackthorn's procession entered our gates, Your Majesty. Horses are saddled and waiting in the north stable. Supplies are packed. I have mapped escape routes through the mountain passes. We can leave within the hour. You would commit treason for me? I ask, even though I already know the answer. Roland's smile is sad and certain. I would rather serve a happy healer than a miserable queen, Your Majesty. You have given enough years to duty. Take some for yourself. We plan quickly, speaking in whispers. The pre-wedding hunt is scheduled in 3 days, a traditional event where both courts ride out together to demonstrate unity and prowess. It would be the perfect distraction, but we cannot wait 3 days. Not after tonight. Not after seeing what my future will be. We will leave tonight. Emmett has connections in the Americas who can provide new identities. We will travel as wandering physicians, bringing healing to those who need it most. It is a fantasy, impossible and impractical and absolutely necessary, but nothing goes as planned. The next morning, I am summoned to an emergency council meeting. The tone of the summons makes my blood run cold. This is not a request, but a command, delivered with the sharp urgency of crisis. I dress quickly, my heart hammering, and make my way to the council chamber with dread pooling in my stomach like poison. The scene that greets me is my worst nightmare made flesh. Lord Thaddeus stands at the head of the table, his face arranged in an expression of sorrowful duty that does not reach his gleeful eyes. Beside him stand 2 guards holding Margot, my former lady-in-waiting, the woman who betrayed me once and is clearly about to do so again. And seated in my chair, is Cornelius Blackthorn, looking like a king already settled into his new domain. Your Majesty, Thaddeus says, his voice dripping with false regret. Lady Margot has made disturbing allegations that we felt required immediate attention, given the, sensitive nature of the upcoming nuptials. My wolf rises in my chest, sensing trap and betrayal. What allegations? Margot does not meet my eyes. She stares at the floor, her voice shaking, whether with fear or triumph, I cannot tell. I am sorry, Your Majesty, but I must speak truth. Before the Battle of Grindelwald Pass, I witnessed you using forbidden healing magic on common soldiers. Your hands glowed with silver light. You healed wounds the council healers had deemed unworthy of magical resources. And I believe, she falters, then continues in a rush. I believe this is why you were attacked. Someone in our ranks feared what you represent, feared that you would use your magic to undermine noble authority, to give the common people independence they should not have. The council chamber explodes with accusations and demands and performative outrage. Council members who have suspected for years finally have confirmation. Blackthorn watches me with an expression I cannot read, calculation mixed with something that might be fascination. I could lie. I could deny everything, claim Margot is mad or vindictive or mistaken. But I am so tired of lying, so tired of hiding. If I am to be destroyed, let it be for speaking truth. Yes, I say, and my voice cuts through the chaos like a blade. I healed them. Yes, I have lunar magic. Yes, I was attacked by someone in this room who feared what I represent. The end of your control. The end of a system that lets children die while nobles live forever. The end of power maintained through cruelty, disguised as necessity. The silence that follows is absolute. Every person in the room stares at me, some with horror, some with hunger, all with the particular intensity of people witnessing their world shift beneath their feet. Blackthorn rises from my chair, his massive form dominating the room, and approaches me with slow, deliberate steps. You have healing magic? His voice is soft, almost gentle, which makes it infinitely more terrifying. Powerful magic? Lunar magic? I lift my chin, letting silver light spill from my palms in confirmation. Yes, what happens next will haunt me for the rest of my life. Blackthorn begins to laugh, not the warm laughter of joy, but something cold and calculated and utterly without humor. He laughs like a merchant who has just realized the cargo he purchased is worth 10 times what he paid. He laughs like a conqueror who has claimed not just territory, but treasure beyond imagining. This is perfect, he says, still laughing. This is beyond perfect. A queen with healing magic under my control. He turns to address the council, his arms spread wide. Gentlemen, we will not hoard healing. We will not limit it. We will monopolize it completely. Queen Beatrice will heal only whom I designate, for the prices I set. We will create a healing monopoly that spans both our kingdoms. Her magic will make us wealthier than any rulers in history. The full horror of what my marriage would mean crashes over me like an avalanche. I would not just be silenced. I would be weaponized, turned into the exact tool of oppression I have spent my life resisting. My gift, the thing I was born to use for healing, would become an instrument of control and profit. Blackthorn would parade me across both kingdoms, demonstrating his power over life and death itself, charging desperate people everything they own for the chance at survival. No, I say. The word comes out quiet, but absolute. I will not. Blackthorn's amusement vanishes like frost in sunlight. He moves toward me with predatory grace, and every instinct I have screams at me to run. But I hold my ground, meeting his eyes without flinching. You will, he says, his voice dropping to a deadly purr. Or I will execute every person you care about, starting with that human physician you have been fucking. The room goes utterly still. Even the council members, who have watched this entire scene with varying degrees of satisfaction and horror, draw sharp breaths at such plain speaking. Blackthorn's smile is colder than alpine winter. You think I did not notice? You think my spies did not report your every move? The human doctor who spends hours in your chambers? Who touches you with familiarity no physician should? Who looks at you like you are his salvation? Did you truly believe I would not know? He leans in close enough that I can smell the wine on his breath, the rage beneath his controlled exterior. I own you, Beatrice. Your body, your magic, your future. The physician dies first, slowly and publicly. Then your guard, Roland. Then every servant who showed you kindness. Then I will burn villages until you agree to obey. Accept it now, or accept it after watching everyone you love suffer. My world narrows to a single truth, sharp as broken glass. I cannot save everyone. I cannot protect my kingdom and Emmett and Roland and myself. I can only save what matters most. Before anyone can stop me, before rational thought can interfere with desperate instinct, I call my lunar magic, not for healing, but for something I have never attempted. Power pours from my core, silver light exploding from my body in a massive burst that fills the council chamber like a second sun, blinding, overwhelming, glorious, In the chaos of shouting and stumbling and temporary blindness, I run. The castle becomes a maze I navigate by memory and desperation. I tear off my crown as I run, let it clatter to the stone floor like the burden it has always been. My gown tangles around my legs, and I rip the heavy skirts, not caring about propriety or modesty or any of the 1,000 rules that have governed my existence for 33 years. I run like my life depends on it, because it does. I find Emmett in the healer's wing, just finishing packing his medical supplies. He looks up at my entrance, takes one look at my face, and knows. "Now?" he asks. "Now," I confirm, grabbing his hand. "Roland, the North Passage. We go now." Sir Roland appears as if summoned, leading 2 horses already saddled, supplies already secured. He had anticipated this moment, prepared for this exact emergency. "The North Passage leads to the mountain paths," he says, helping me mount with hands that shake slightly. "They will pursue, Your Majesty. They will hunt us with everything they have." "I know," I tell him, and I see the moment he understands what I am really saying. "I know you will die helping me escape, and I accept your sacrifice, and I will never forget it." We race through the castle's secret passages, ancient corridors built for exactly these kinds of emergencies, escape routes designed by paranoid ancestors who understood that sometimes queens need to run. Behind us, I hear the alarms beginning to sound, bells ringing, soldiers mobilizing, the organized chaos of a castle preparing for war. The hunt has begun. We emerge into the alpine night through a hidden exit in the castle's northern wall. Snow is falling in thick, silent curtains, coating the world in white and cold. For one perfect moment we are free, 3 figures on horseback disappearing into the winter darkness, leaving behind crowns and duty and everything that ever tried to cage us. Then torches appear behind us, dozens of them, and I know with the certainty of prey that has just scented predator, they are coming. We ride hard through terrain I know like the back of my hand, paths I traveled as a child, shortcuts through forests and over streams that freeze my horse's hooves but save us precious minutes. Emmett rides beside me, his body bent low over his horse's neck, his medical bag secured across his back. He is not a natural horseman, but he rides with the determination of someone who has everything to lose. My wound, the one that has been healing so carefully under Emmett's treatment, tears open with the violence of our flight. I feel the warm rush of blood soaking through my clothes, feel the familiar burn of torn tissue and stressed sutures. Pain lances through me with each stride of my horse, but I do not slow, cannot slow. Behind us, the torches multiply like stars falling from heaven. We reach a steep section of trail, more rock slide than path, and my vision swims. I stumble in the saddle. Emmett's hand shoots out to steady me, and when he pulls it back, his palm is stained red with my blood. "Beatrice," he says, and his voice cracks with fear. "I cannot outrun them," I gasp, stating the obvious truth. The bleeding is too much, the exhaustion too deep, my body giving out after weeks of trauma and insufficient healing. "Leave me. You can escape." Emmett's response is immediate and fierce. "Never." That is when Sir Roland makes his decision. He pulls his horse to a halt, turns to face the pursuing soldiers, and draws his sword. "Your Majesty," he says, and his voice is steady and certain and heartbreaking. "There is a healer's sanctuary 3 days' ride south, in the valley villages. They will shelter you. They are good people who believe healing belongs to all. Go there. Go now." "Roland," I start, but he cuts me off. "It has been my honor to serve you, Queen Beatrice. Now let me serve you one last time. Go. Let my death mean something. Before I can protest, before I can forbid him, before I can do anything but watch in horror, Roland kicks his horse into a gallop back toward the pursuing soldiers, his battle cry echoing off the mountains. He is one man against dozens, buying us time with his life, and I cannot waste his sacrifice by arguing. "Ride," I tell Emmett through tears I do not bother to hide. "Ride south. Do not look back." We ride through the night and into dawn, our horses laboring through snow that gets deeper with each mile. My blood stains the saddle, drips onto the white ground, leaves a trail any competent tracker could follow with eyes closed. But we do not stop, cannot stop. Roland's sacrifice has given us hours, not days, and we need every second. As the sun rises over the Alps, painting snow and rock in shades of gold and rose, we reach a mountain pass, narrow, treacherous, The kind of place where a small force could hold off a larger one if they were desperate enough, or if they had magic powerful enough to reshape reality. That is when I see him. Cornelius Blackthorn, shifted into his alpha wolf form, massive and black against the snow, leading what remains of his pursuit. They have caught up. Of course they have. I am bleeding and exhausted and riding a horse that can barely walk anymore. We were never going to outrun them forever. I dismount, my legs nearly buckling as they hit ground. Emmett is beside me instantly, his arms supporting me, his face white with exhaustion and fear. Beatrice, no. Get back on the horse. We keep running. I look at the pass, narrow enough that one person could block it, at least temporarily. I look at Blackthorn's forces. Too many to fight, too organized to evade. I look at Emmett, this beautiful man who taught me what I was meant to be, who gave me back myself, who made me believe that life could be something other than duty and suffering. I make my choice. I will hold them here, I tell him. My magic is strong enough. I can create a barrier, buy us time to escape. Then we hold them together, Emmett says, and his voice allows for no argument. We go together or not at all. I kiss him one final time, tasting salt and snow, and the particular desperation of people who have run out of time. Then I turn to face the approaching army, Emmett solid and steady beside me, and I gather my lunar magic, all of it, every drop of power I have suppressed for 33 years, every ounce of gift I was never allowed to use. Silver light begins to build around me, spiraling up from my feet, swirling around my hands, growing brighter and brighter until I am incandescent with it. My lunar magic, wild and untrained but powerful as a storm, responding to my desperate call. Blackthorn's massive wolf form charges, his pack behind him, certain of victory. He is bigger, stronger, more experienced in battle. He has numbers and training and the absolute certainty that he will win, because he always wins. But he does not have what I have. 3 weeks of training with Emmett, learning to direct my magic with intention, the desperate fury of a woman who has nothing left to lose, and the absolute determination that I will die free, rather than live as his possession. As Blackthorn leaps, jaws open to tear out my throat, I release my power, not as a weapon, not to kill or maim or destroy, but as a barrier, a wall of silver light that erupts from the ground, sealing the mountain pass, separating us from Blackthorn's forces with luminous, impassable magic. The barrier rises 50 feet high, stretching across the entire width of the pass, thrumming with power I did not know I possessed. Blackthorn slams into it and bounces back, shifting to human form in surprise and rage. Through the shimmering wall of my magic, I see him standing there, naked and furious, shouting words I cannot hear through the barrier. Then his voice rises, magically amplified, reaching me despite my shield. "You cannot maintain this forever," he roars. "You will weaken. I will find you. You are mine, Beatrice. You will always be mine. You cannot escape what you are. A queen, a possession, a tool to be used." I step closer to the barrier, close enough that he can see my face clearly, close enough that there can be no misunderstanding. My voice when I speak is steady and clear and absolutely certain. I am no one's, not yours, not the council's, not even my crown's. I am a healer, and I choose freedom. The barrier will hold for hours. I can feel it in the way my magic has rooted into the stone, drawing power from the mountain itself. Hours are enough. Hours will give us the head start we need to disappear into the valley villages, to find the sanctuary Roland spoke of, to become people Blackthorn cannot find, because they do not exist in his world of crowns and conquest. I turn away from him, from my kingdom, from everything I have ever been, and take Emmett's hand. "South," I tell him. Roland said south to the valley villages. We mount our exhausted horses and ride away from my barrier, away from Blackthorn's rage, away from the life that tried to destroy me. Behind us, I know my kingdom is burning with the news. Queen Beatrice Battleforge has abandoned her throne for love and principle. Some will call me traitor. Some will call me coward. Some will call me mad. I call myself free. We ride through the morning and into afternoon, my barrier holding strong behind us, giving us the time we need. But nothing lasts forever, and neither does magic fueled by desperation. As the sun begins its descent toward the western peaks, I feel my barrier begin to falter. The wound in my back, torn open by flight and battle and impossible magic, bleeds steadily. My vision swims. My hands shake on the reins. Emmett sees it happening. Beatrice. I know. I tell him. Keep riding. The valley is close. I can feel it. I can feel it in the way the air changes, becoming softer, warmer, less severe. In the way the landscape shifts from barren alpine rock to terraced fields. In the way smoke rises from chimneys in the distance. Not the cold stone fortresses I have known my whole life, but simple cottages built for warmth and living. My barrier finally fails as we crest the last ridge. I feel it shatter like glass, my magic spent, my body at its absolute limit. I slump forward in the saddle, barely conscious, held upright only by muscle memory and stubborn will. The last thing I see before darkness takes me is a small village spread out below us, houses with thatched roofs and smoke curling from chimneys, people working in gardens despite the snow, children playing in streets that have never seen armies march through them. And as we approach, as Emmett calls out for help, in a voice hoarse with desperation, people rush toward us, not with weapons, but with concern. People who help strangers, people who share healing freely, people like the person I always wanted to be. I collapse into Emmett's arms, my wound reopened, my strength gone, my magic depleted. But as consciousness fades and darkness claims me, I feel something I have not felt in 33 years of wearing a crown. Peace. I woke up in a cottage that smelled of herbs and bread, without a crown, without a kingdom, and for the first time in my life, without the weight of duty crushing my chest. I woke up free. The first thing I see is rough-hewn wooden beams above me, not the vaulted stone ceilings of my castle. The first thing I smell is rosemary and fresh-baked bread, not the cold mineral scent of ancient power. The first thing I hear is children laughing outside, not the measured footsteps of guards patrolling corridors. And the first thing I feel, beyond the dull ache of my healing wound, is Emmett's hand wrapped around mine, his thumb tracing gentle circles on my wrist as if reassuring himself that I still have a pulse. "Welcome back," he says, and his voice is hoarse with exhaustion and relief. His face is gaunt, shadowed with days of sleepless worry, but his smile is sunrise itself. "You nearly died again. Apparently, you make a habit of it." I try to laugh, but the sound catches in my throat and transforms into something between a sob and a gasp. Pain lances through my back, familiar now, almost a companion, but it is different than before, cleaner. The festering poison burn has been replaced by the honest ache of tissue knitting back together, of a body finally allowed to heal properly. "How long?" I managed to ask, my voice rusty from disuse. 3 days. "You collapsed when we reached the village. Your wound had reopened completely. You had lost too much blood, and your magic was so depleted that even your wolf could not help you heal." Emmett's hand tightens on mine, and I see the ghost of terror in his eyes, the memory of thinking he might lose me after everything we sacrificed to be together. The sanctuary healers worked in shifts with me. We combined my herbal medicines with their magic, a hybrid approach that finally worked where everything else failed. "You are healing, Beatrice. Truly healing." I try to sit up, and Emmett's hands are immediately there to support me, helping me rise slowly against pillows that smell like lavender and sun-dried cotton. The room swims into focus, small but immaculately clean, with whitewashed walls, and a window through which golden afternoon light streams. Dried herbs hang from the rafters. Medical instruments I recognize from Emmett's collection sit neatly organized on a side table, and through the window, I see a village that looks like something from a dream I did not know I was having. Simple cottages with thatched roofs cluster around a central square where a well provides communal water. Gardens burst with late-season vegetables despite the alpine cold. People move about their daily work with the ease of those who have never known the weight of courtly intrigue or political machination. A group of children plays some complicated game involving a ball and much shrieking laughter. An elderly woman tends a medicinal herb garden, her movements practiced and sure. 2 men carry a stretcher bearing someone injured, heading toward what must be the healing halls, and no one stops them to demand payment or proof of worth. "Where are we?" I ask, though part of me already knows. "The sanctuary," Emmett says. "The place Sir Roland told us about before." His voice catches, and he does not finish the sentence. He does not need to. Before he sacrificed himself to buy us time. Before he died so that I could live free. The grief hits me like a physical blow. Roland, who served me faithfully for 15 years, who chose to die rather than watch me suffer another day, who gave his life so that I could choose mine. I will carry his sacrifice for the rest of my days, a weight far heavier than any crown. They captured him, I whisper. Not really a question. Emmett nods, his face grave. Word reached us 2 days after we arrived. Blackthorn's forces took him alive. He was tried for treason and executed publicly as an example to others who might think to help you. He pauses, then adds quietly, "They say he went to his death with your name on his lips and no regret in his eyes." I close my eyes against tears that come anyway, hot and bitter. He should have left me. He should have saved himself. He loved you, Emmett says simply. Not as a subject loves a queen, but as a brother loves a sister, as a friend loves a friend. He saw your suffering for years and could do nothing to ease it. When finally he could do something, he did. Do not dishonor his choice by wishing he had made a different one. The words are gentle but firm, and I know he is right. Roland chose his death as deliberately as I chose my escape. I must honor that choice by living the life he died to give me. A knock at the door interrupts my grief. An elderly woman enters without waiting for permission, moving with the confidence of someone utterly at home in her own domain. She is ancient, her face a map of wrinkles that speak of laughter and sorrow in equal measure, her silver hair braided in a crown around her head. But her eyes are sharp as broken glass, and when she looks at me, I feel seen in a way that has nothing to do with crowns or titles. "Awake at last," she says, her voice like gravel and honey mixed together. "Good. We have much to discuss, child, and the dead cannot speak." She settles into a chair beside my bed, with the ease of old bones, finding familiar comfort. "I am Grandmother Helga, elder of this sanctuary, and healer for longer than you have been alive. And you are Queen Beatrice Battleforge, though I suspect you do not much care for that title anymore. Just Beatrice, I say. I am no one's queen now." Grandmother Helga's laugh is surprisingly girlish. "Oh, child, you were always too much yourself to fit into that particular cage." She leans forward, her eyes searching my face with an intensity that makes me want to look away. "We have waited for you." The prophecy spoke of an alpha queen who would choose healing over ruling, love over power, truth over duty. It said she would come to us broken and bleeding, having traded everything for freedom, and that her choice would crack the foundations of the old world. You are that queen, Beatrice, and your revolution has already begun. I stare at her, trying to process words that sound like madness or destiny, and I am not certain which is more terrifying. I do not understand. I ran away. I abandoned my kingdom. I am an oath-breaker and a coward. You are a woman who chose herself, Grandmother Helga corrects, and that choice has echoed farther than you can imagine. She gestures toward the window, toward the village beyond. Word of your escape spread through the territories like wildfire. Queen Beatrice rejected a forced marriage. Queen Beatrice refused to be a weapon of medical tyranny. Queen Beatrice chose a common physician over a conqueror king. Common people heard those stories and began to ask questions. If a queen can choose freedom over duty, why cannot we? If a queen can refuse to hoard healing, why should nobles be allowed to? Emmett takes my hand, and I see in his face that he has already heard this, that he has been waiting for me to wake so that I could hear it too. "Tell her about the healers," he prompts gently. Grandmother Helga's smile is fierce with satisfaction. "Noble healers across the Alpine territories have begun teaching medicine to common people. Some do it secretly, some do it openly in defiance of the council. They cite your example, child. They say if Queen Beatrice believed healing should belong to everyone, then they will make it so. The council is fracturing. Half of them want to hunt you down and make an example of you. The other half fear what will happen if they do, fear that killing you will make you a martyr and accelerate the very revolution they are trying to prevent. And Blackthorn? I have to know, even though speaking his name feels like swallowing glass. Losing control, Grandmother Helga says bluntly. His territories demand the healing reforms you represent. His own nobles question his authority. He spent a fortune searching for you in the first month, but you have vanished like morning mist. Some say you are dead. Some say you have gone to the Americas. Some say you have become a spirit of the mountains, doling out healing to the worthy and curses to the cruel. Her eyes glint with amusement. We have not discouraged any of those rumors. I lean back against the pillows, my mind reeling. I thought my escape was the end of something, the end of my reign, the end of my political relevance, the end of my ability to effect change. Instead, it seems to have been a beginning. I did not mean to start a revolution, I say weakly. The best revolutions are never meant, Grandmother Helga says. They simply happen when one person has the courage to say no more and mean it. She rises with a cracking of old joints, pats my hand with surprising gentleness. Rest now, heal, and when you are strong enough, we will teach you what you came here to learn, how to be the healer you were always meant to be. The days that follow blur into a rhythm so different from my previous life that it feels like I have been reborn into a new world. The sanctuary is everything my royal court was not, a community where healing is not hoarded but shared, where knowledge flows freely like water, where the measure of a person has nothing to do with their birth and everything to do with their willingness to help others. The healers here are a mix of human, shifter, and witch, all working together with a cooperation that would have been unthinkable in my kingdom. They share techniques, combine methods, debate philosophy late into the night over cups of herbal tea. When someone arrives needing help, and people arrive daily, traveling from distant villages because word has spread that the sanctuary refuses no one, the healers gather to assess the situation together. They argue about treatment approaches, but the arguments are passionate discussions aimed at finding the best solution, not political maneuvering for status. I am both student and teacher here, learning and sharing in equal measure. The witches teach me to refine my lunar magic, showing me techniques for directing healing energy with precision rather than blunt force. One ancient witch named Marta demonstrates how to sense infections by feeling for heat signatures in the body's energy field, a skill that combines magic with diagnosis in ways I never imagined. Another healer, a human woman named Clara, who learned herbalism from her grandmother, teaches me which plants work synergistically when combined, how to prepare tinctures that maximize medicinal compounds, the importance of harvesting at specific moon phases. And I teach them what I know, the formal anatomical knowledge I learned from stolen hours in the Royal Library, the surgical techniques Emmett taught me during my recovery, the unique properties of lunar magic that only I seem to possess. I discover I have a gift for teaching, for explaining complex concepts in ways that make sense to farmers and craftspeople who never had access to formal education. When I show a blacksmith's daughter how to use a combination of comfrey poultice and directed healing energy to knit a broken bone in half the normal time, and I see her eyes light up with understanding, I feel more useful than I ever felt sitting on a throne. Emmett thrives here in ways that break my heart with joy. He establishes a medical school in one of the sanctuary's larger buildings, creating a curriculum that combines his scientific training with the sanctuary's magical traditions. Students come from everywhere, young people hungry for knowledge that was always denied them, older healers wanting to expand their skills, even a few disillusioned noble physicians who left their posts to learn a better way. I watch him teach with the passion of someone who has finally found his true calling, his hands moving to illustrate anatomical concepts, his voice warm with enthusiasm as he explains the scientific method of observation and experimentation. He is no longer just a wandering physician with a worn leather bag. He is a revolutionary in his own right, proving that healing does not require magic or noble birth, just knowledge, compassion, and the willingness to keep learning. Our relationship deepens in these months from the desperate passion of crisis into something steadier and truer. We work side by side in the healing halls, our different approaches complementing each other perfectly, his science giving my magic precision, my magic handling what his herbs cannot touch. We challenge each other intellectually, debating treatment philosophies late into the night, disagreeing with the comfort of people who know that argument is not abandonment. We support each other emotionally, holding each other through nightmares of Roland's death and Blackthorn's threats, celebrating small victories like a difficult patient saved or a new healing technique mastered. Without the barriers of rank and duty, without the weight of politics and propriety, we discover who we truly are together, not queen and commoner, not alpha and human, not even healer and healer, really. Just Beatrice and Emmett, two people building the world they believe in, one patient at a time. 6 months after our escape, during the autumn equinox when the leaves turn gold and the air carries the first sharp promise of winter, we marry in the sanctuary's simple ceremony. There are no treaties to negotiate, no political implications to consider, no council members arguing about dynastic implications. Just vows spoken under the open sky in a grove of ancient oaks, witnessed by people we have healed, and people who have healed us. I wear a dress of undyed wool that Clara wove herself, with flowers from the sanctuary gardens woven into my unbound hair. No crown, no jewels, no royal regalia meant to announce my importance to a world that no longer needs to know who I was. Emmett's ring is carved wood, cherry wood that he shaped himself during the long nights of my recovery, inlaid with a silver wire that catches the light. It is the opposite of the platinum and diamond monstrosity Blackthorn would have given me, and it is perfect. We speak our vows in the old language, the one shifters used before humans came to these mountains, the one that has no words for ownership or possession. I choose you, I say, my voice steady and certain. Not because destiny demands it, not because politics requires it, but because my heart recognizes yours as home. I choose you today, and will choose you again tomorrow, and every day after that, for as long as we both draw breath. Emmett's eyes are bright with tears he does not bother to hide. I choose you, he echoes. The healer, not the queen. The woman, not the title. The soul that matches mine in all the ways that matter. I choose freedom with you over safety without you. I choose truth with you over comfort without you. I choose you, Beatrice, and I will keep choosing you until my last heartbeat. We kiss as the sanctuary community cheers, and I taste salt and joy and the particular sweetness of vows that are truly meant. This is what marriage should be, not transaction or alliance, but recognition, not duty or obligation, but choice freely made and continually renewed. The celebration that follows is simple but joyous. There is food, roasted vegetables from the garden, bread baked that morning, honey mead that tastes like summer captured in liquid form. There is music, fiddles and flutes and drums, played by people who have never performed for royalty, but who make beauty anyway. There is dancing, not the formal court dances of my previous life, but wild, spinning celebration that leaves everyone breathless and laughing. I dance with Emmett until my feet ache, then with grandmother Helga, who moves with surprising grace despite her age, then with children who grab my hands and pull me into their circles with the easy acceptance of those who have never been taught to see some people as more valuable than others. And sometime during the dancing, as the sun sets and torches are lit, and the celebration continues into the night, I realize something that nearly brings me to my knees with its simple truth. I am happy. Not the performative happiness of queens at state functions, not the desperate happiness of people clinging to brief respites from suffering. Just happy, content, at peace with who I am and where I am and what I am doing with my life. After 33 years of duty and suppression and slowly dying inside a gilded cage, I have finally found what it means to live. But the past is not finished with us. A week after our wedding, just as I am beginning to believe that perhaps we truly have escaped, perhaps Blackthorn will never find us, perhaps we can simply live out our days in peaceful obscurity, a messenger arrives. He comes at dawn, riding a horse nearly dead from exhaustion, wearing the colors of my former kingdom but not the formal livery of royal service. He is young, perhaps 20, and his face is tight with fear and determination in equal measure. He asks for Queen Beatrice Battleforge, and when I step forward, wearing a simple healer's tunic, my hands stained with herb juices from morning preparations, he nearly falls from his horse in shock. "Your Majesty," he gasps, and the title sounds strange after months of being simply Beatrice. I bring urgent news from the Alpine territories. Lord Thaddeus and half the council have been overthrown. A coalition of noble healers and common people seized control 3 days ago. They request— he pauses, swallows hard. They request your return, Your Majesty. Not as queen, but as advisor to help establish a public healing system. They offer full pardon for your departure, safety guarantees, and the promise that you would serve only as long as you choose. The world seems to tilt sideways. I look at Emmett, see my own shock and confusion reflected in his face. They want me back, not to punish me, but to help them. The council that tried to kill me has fallen, and the people who rose in its place think I can help them build something better. Tell me everything, I say, and the messenger does. The story he tells is one of slow accumulation, sparks adding to kindling until the whole structure catches fire. My escape planted seeds of doubt that grew in the dark. Healers who had secretly sympathized with common people but feared council retribution found courage in my example. When a plague swept through the southern villages, and the council refused to allocate magical resources for peasants who would die anyway, several noble healers defied orders and treated the sick. The council tried to execute them. Common people rioted. Soldiers refused to fire on the crowds. And in the chaos, A coalition of progressive healers and community leaders stormed the council chambers and declared the old system dead. "They are trying to build what you spoke of, Your Majesty," the messenger says, his voice carrying the fervor of true belief. "A healing system that serves everyone, medical knowledge shared freely, training programs for common-born healers. They have the will, but they lack the knowledge. You spent years studying in secret. You know how the system works and how it could work better. They need you." I see the longing in Emmett's eyes before he even speaks. The chance to return not as conquered refugees but as architects of change. The opportunity to transform the system that oppressed me, to bring sanctuary principles to an entire kingdom. "We could go back," he says carefully, "not as rulers, as healers who happen to have political influence, as advisors who help establish the framework and then step away. The girl I was, the one who spent 33 years trying to be good enough, trying to earn the right to exist, trying to fix everything wrong with my kingdom, would have leapt at this chance, would have seen it as redemption, as proof that my sacrifice meant something, as the opportunity to finally be the queen I always wanted to be. But the woman I have become understands something deeper. Real change does not come from the top down. It spreads village to village, person to person, like medicine shared freely. It grows from the ground up, rooted in communities like this one, nurtured by people who believe in it not because a queen commanded them to, but because they have experienced its benefits themselves. "We will help them," I tell the messenger, and I see hope flare in his eyes. Then I continue, and watch that hope transform into confusion, but not by returning to the castle. "We will send teachers from the sanctuary, experienced healers who can train others in community medicine. We will write medical texts that anyone can read, detailed enough that even those with no formal education can learn healing arts. We will establish a correspondence network so that healers across the territories can share knowledge and ask questions. The revolution does not need a queen. It needs knowledge that cannot be controlled." The messenger struggles to understand. "But Your Majesty, your presence would give the movement legitimacy. Your name carries weight. My name carries the weight of the old system," I interrupt gently. "I was born into privilege, crowned at 18, trained to rule. If I return, even as an advisor, I become the center of the movement. People will look to me for answers instead of finding their own. They will wait for my permission instead of taking action. The movement needs to belong to the people, not to a former queen who abandoned her throne." I spend the next week writing the most important document of my life, not a decree or a proclamation, but a detailed proposal for a public healing system based on everything I have learned in the sanctuary. I explain methods for training community healers, combining magical and non-magical approaches to maximize accessibility. I outline a curriculum that can be adapted to different regions and skill levels. I describe organizational structures that distribute power instead of concentrating it, ensuring that no single person or council can ever again hoard healing as a weapon of control. And I include one personal message, the only time I allow myself to be not just a healer, but the former queen writing to her people. I abdicated the throne because I believe power should belong to the people, not be hoarded by the few. I will not return to rule, not even in an advisory capacity, because the moment I step back into that castle, I become a symbol of the old ways. But I will spend my life ensuring that healing, like freedom, becomes a right, not a privilege. Build your new world without me. Build it better than I ever could have from a throne. The messenger departs with my response, and I watch him ride away with a mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief that I do not have to go back, that I can continue the life I have built here. Sorrow that I cannot save everyone, cannot personally oversee the transformation of every village, cannot guarantee that the movement will succeed. But Grandmother Helga, who has been watching this entire exchange with knowing eyes, comes to stand beside me as the messenger disappears over the horizon. "You made the right choice, child. Leaders who will not step aside doom their movements to die with them. Leaders who train others and then get out of the way, create change that outlasts their lifetimes." Her words prove prophetic. Over the following months, we receive reports of transformation spreading through the Alpine territories like spring following winter. The Battle Forge method, a name I never chose but cannot seem to escape, becomes the model for community healing. Medical schools adopt Emmett's curriculum, training thousands of new healers. Noble healers who once hoarded their gifts begin teaching openly, some out of genuine conversion to the cause, others out of fear of being left behind by history. The system I could not dismantle from within crumbles because I walked away from it. By refusing to return, by insisting that the movement belonged to the people rather than to me, I create space for it to grow beyond anything I could have controlled or predicted. Villages establish their own healing cooperatives. Cities fund public clinics. Trade routes include medical knowledge alongside goods, healers traveling with merchant caravans to spread techniques and treatments. It is messy and imperfect, and sometimes frustratingly slow. Some regions resist change. Some noble healers cling to the old ways. There are setbacks and failures and tragedies that better planning might have prevented. But it is real change, organic and sustainable, growing from the ground up, rather than imposed from above. As for Blackthorn, karma has a sense of timing. 2 years after our escape, he appears at the sanctuary, and the irony is so perfect it would be funny if it were not so pathetic. He comes not as a conqueror, but as a patient, riding alone on a horse that looks as exhausted as he does, his left arm bound in blood-stained bandages that reek of infection even from a distance. I am in the healing halls when he arrives, treating a child's broken arm, and I hear the commotion before I see him. Raised voices, people arguing about whether they have to help him, whether the sanctuary's rule of "we refuse no one" applies to someone who has caused so much suffering. I finish setting the child's bone with a combination of Emmett's splinting technique and my lunar magic to accelerate initial healing. Then I walk out to see what catastrophe has arrived at our doorstep. Blackthorn stands in the center of the courtyard, and he is a shadow of the man who rode into my castle 2 years ago with 500 soldiers and absolute certainty in his right to claim me. He has lost weight, his face gaunt and graying, his eyes carrying the particular haunted look of someone who has lost everything and knows it is his own fault. The infection in his arm is bad. I can smell the rot from 10 paces away, can see the red streaks of blood poisoning climbing toward his shoulder. He is dying, and he knows it. "Queen Beatrice," he says when he sees me, and his voice is hoarse with pain and something that might be shame. I have nowhere else to go. The healers in my territories refuse to treat me. They learned of my role in Sir Roland's execution, learned that I tried to force you into becoming my weapon, learned that I value power over lives. I come to the one place that allegedly refuses no one, though I understand if you make an exception for me. I could refuse him. It would be justified, perhaps even satisfying. He tried to own me, tried to weaponize my gifts, threatened to kill everyone I loved. He is responsible for Roland's death, for villages burned in pursuit of me, for countless suffering caused by his policies. I would be well within my rights to turn him away and let his infection kill him. But that would make me like him. That would mean my principles only apply to people I like, that healing is something I control rather than something I give freely. The sanctuary's rule is absolute. We refuse no one, not even conquerors who have become their own prisoners. "Sit," I tell him, gesturing to a bench. "Let me see the arm. The infection is worse than I thought. An arrow wound from some border skirmish has been neglected too long, left to fester while he presumably tried to find a healer who would treat him without judging him. The flesh around the wound is necrotic, black and rotting, poison spreading through his bloodstream with every heartbeat. If I do nothing, he will be dead in days. If I simply apply medicine without magic, he might last a week. To truly heal him, I need to use the lunar magic he once tried to turn into a commodity. I call Emmett over, and he understands immediately what I am asking. "You do not have to do this," he says quietly. "No one would blame you for refusing. I would blame myself," I tell him. "Fetch your surgical kit and the strongest antibacterial herbs we have. This is going to take both medicine and magic." I work on Blackthorn for 3 hours, combining Emmett's surgical expertise with my healing magic. I cut away necrotic tissue while Emmett manages blood loss. I draw out infection with focused lunar magic while he applies poultices that will prevent recurrence. It is the most complex healing I have ever attempted, requiring constant communication and coordination, both of us working at the absolute limit of our skills. Blackthorn endures it with surprising stoicism, gritting his teeth against pain that must be extraordinary, but making no sound except labored breathing. When we finally finish, when the infection has been defeated and the wound is clean and healing properly, he looks up at me with eyes that hold something I never expected to see in him: understanding. "You could have let me die," he says. "Yes," I agree simply. "Why did you not?" I clean my hands, stained with his blood and pus, and the remnants of infection I drew from his body. I think about Roland, who died so I could live, about all the patients I have treated in the 2 years since I left my throne, about what healing truly means, because healing is not a reward for the deserving. It is a human right, even for humans who have forgotten how to act like humans. Blackthorn looks at me for a long moment, and I see something shift in his expression. You could have been remembered as a great queen, I tell him before he can speak. You had the intelligence, the strength, the resources. Instead, you will be a footnote in the story of a greater change. The conqueror who lost everything because he tried to own what should never be owned. He nods slowly, acknowledging the truth of my words. When he is healed enough to travel, 3 days later, he leaves without attempting to reclaim me, without trying to justify himself, without any of the posturing I expected. He simply mounts his horse, looks back once and says, "You were right, about everything." Then he rides away, and I never see him again. I learn later that he abdicated his throne, citing health reasons, but everyone knowing the real reason. His territories had already moved beyond him. The man who once ruled through conquest ends his life as a minor lord in a distant province, remembered by history only as the king who tried to cage a healer and lost. The years pass like water flowing downhill, inevitable, natural, carrying us toward destinations we could not have predicted, but seem, in hindsight, exactly right. Emmett and I continue our work, training healers, establishing clinics, writing medical texts that are copied and distributed across Europe, traveling to communities that need help. The sanctuary grows into a network of healing communities, each one autonomous, but connected through shared principles and regular correspondence. We have 3 children, each one a joy I never knew I was capable of feeling. Our eldest, Helena, is born with lunar magic even stronger than mine, silver light pouring from her infant hands the moment she enters the world. I teach her with none of the fear that governed my own childhood, showing her how to direct her gift, encouraging her to experiment and explore. She grows into a gifted healer who specializes in treating magical burnout, helping other healers recover from the exhaustion of using their gifts too generously. Our middle child, Thomas, named for the stable boy I healed when I was 7, has no magic at all, which he announces at age 5 is perfect, because Papa does not have magic, and Papa is the best. He becomes a physician like Emmett, approaching healing with scientific rigor and philosophical depth, eventually writing a treatise on the integration of magical and non-magical medical traditions that becomes required reading in medical schools across Europe. Our youngest, wild little Mara, is a wolf shifter who refuses to be defined by any category. She shifts at age 3, earlier than most, and spends half her childhood in wolf form, only returning to human shape when absolutely necessary. She chooses to become a midwife, bringing both human and shifter babies into the world with equal care, her wolf senses giving her unique insight into the hidden complications that can arise during birth. She saves countless lives simply by being exactly who she is, without apology or compromise. I watch my children grow into themselves with pride that sometimes makes my chest ache. They will never know the weight of suppressing their gifts, the torture of hiding who they are, the suffocation of duty that demands you betray yourself. They grow up free to become whoever they choose, and that freedom is my true legacy, not the throne I abandoned, but the world I helped create where children do not have to choose between their gifts and their survival. The final scene of this chapter of my life, though of course life does not really have chapters, just continuous unfolding, takes place on my 50th birthday. It is autumn again, the season when I married Emmett, when the world transforms in preparation for winter's rest. The sanctuary has grown into a small village of its own, with permanent residents and a constant flow of visitors seeking training or treatment, or simply the chance to be part of something that values them for who they are, rather than what they were born into. A celebration has been organized without my knowledge, typical of the sanctuary's tendency toward spontaneous joy, and I walk out of the healing halls after a long day of treating patients to find the courtyard transformed. Lanterns hang from trees, casting warm golden light. Tables groan under the weight of food prepared by dozens of hands. Musicians tune their instruments. And everywhere, people smile at me with genuine affection, not the calculated deference of courtiers, but the warmth of community. My children are here. Helena with her 2-year-old son balanced on her hip. Thomas engaged in animated discussion with grandmother Helga about some medical philosophy. Mara in wolf form chasing the village children in some elaborate game. Emmett stands at the edge of the crowd, silver threading through his hair now, his face lined with the comfortable wrinkles of someone who smiles often. When he sees me, His expression softens into the look he has given me every day for 17 years. The one that says, "You are home, you are loved, you are exactly where you belong." The celebration unfolds with the easy chaos of people who love each other. Food is eaten. Stories are told. Someone asks me to recount the tale of my escape, and though I have told it 100 times, I tell it again because stories matter, because knowing that change is possible gives people courage to attempt their own impossible things. As the sun begins to set, painting the mountains in shades of gold and rose, a young girl approaches me. She cannot be more than 12, thin and nervous, with the particular wariness of someone who has learned that adults are not always safe. I recognize her. She arrived at the sanctuary 3 weeks ago, an Omega from a poor family whose healing magic manifested as uncontrollable bursts of power whenever she felt strong emotion. Her parents, terrified and overwhelmed, sent her to us hoping we could fix her. "Queen Beatrice?" she says, her voice barely above a whisper. Then she catches herself. Just Beatrice. Sorry, I forget sometimes. I smile and sit down on a bench, patting the space beside me. "What is it, child?" She sits, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "Will I be as powerful as you someday?" The question is half hope, half fear. She has spent her whole life being told that her magic is dangerous, that Omegas should not have such power, that she is wrong somehow for being exactly what she is. I take her hands, and silver light spills from both of us, my magic and hers, responding to each other, dancing together in the twilight. "You will be more powerful," I tell her, and I mean it, because you will never have to hide what you are, because you will grow up in a world where healing belongs to everyone, where gifts are celebrated rather than suppressed, where Omega or Alpha or human or shifter matters less than your willingness to help others, because you are free to become yourself from the beginning. The girl's eyes widen with wonder, and the first tentative hope I have seen in her. "That is the world we fought for," I continue. "That is the world you will build even better. You will do things with your magic that I never imagined, because you will not waste years hiding it. You will help people I never reached, because you will not be trapped by duty or politics or fear. You are the future, child. You and all the other young healers growing up free. Make us proud." She throws her arms around me in a fierce hug, and I hold her, thinking of myself at 7 years old healing Thomas in the stable, thinking of my mother's horror and the decades of suppression that followed. This girl will never know that particular torture. That alone makes everything worthwhile. The exile, the sacrifice, Roland's death, the crown I traded for freedom. As the sun sets over the Alpine mountains, my lunar magic flares silver in the twilight. Not hidden, not forbidden, not controlled, just freely given, as healing always should be. I look back at the castle in the distance, barely visible on the horizon, where I once wore a crown that never fit, and I feel nothing but gratitude that I found the courage to take it off. Emmett comes to sit beside me, his arm wrapping around my shoulders, the two of us watching our community celebrate in the gathering dark. "Regrets?" he asks. The same question he has asked every year on this day, his annual check-in on the choice we made together. I think about the question seriously, as I always do. I think about what I gave up, crown and kingdom, wealth and power, the chance to rule. I think about what I gained, purpose and freedom, love and community, the chance to heal. The math is simple. Some queens rule kingdoms, I say, the words feeling right as soon as I speak them. I chose to heal one person at a time, and that choice changed everything. I lean into Emmett's embrace, surrounded by the sounds of celebration, the scent of autumn flowers, the silver glow of my magic lighting the twilight. My hands are scarred from surgery, stained with herbs, marked by decades of work I chose rather than was forced into. These hands have healed thousands. These hands have trained hundreds of other healers who will train thousands more. These hands have never worn the heavy rings of royalty again, and I do not miss them. I am 50 years old. I have been free for 17 years. In that time, I have saved more lives and changed more destinies than I ever could have from a throne. The system I could not break from within has crumbled because I walked away from it. The gift I was told to hide has become a beacon for others who were told the same lie, that some people matter more than others, that healing is a privilege, not a right, that power is more important than purpose. They were wrong. I know that now with the certainty that comes from living your truth rather than someone else's expectations. The celebration continues into the night, and I sit surrounded by people I have healed, and people who have healed me, by children who will never know the cage I escaped, by a future I helped build through the simple act of choosing myself. And that, I think, is worth more than any kingdom. That is worth everything.